Okay, are you ready? For part 4, tier 4 of the conspiracy theory iceberg. We get deeper, boys. We get deeper. I'm excited, dude. I love this. I love these conspiracy theories. I love this iceberg shenanigans.
What's up, everyone? And we are back with tier 4. Pretty much nothing to update on. The channel's doing great. Thank you all for that.
And he got a stand for his mic. Not a oh my god, a JoJo reference already! Okay, sorry.
Some of these are a lot more in-depth and specific than ones we've seen in the past, but that's just a trend that keeps going for the entire iceberg. So hopefully they just keep getting better, and hopefully you all enjoy. So sincerely, thank you for watching. Tier 4's title is Adept of Secrets, and it reads, Occult Learnings and Mysteries of...
Ooh, we got some cool stuff in here. This is the Fujaguba. Ooh. Nexus 7. I never heard of that. Bunkers in Mars. Okay, baby, this is gonna. Ooh, dude, I love the JFK theories. Those are so scary. Those are so scary. Damn, son. SCPs based on real life, bro. See, people, let's freaking go. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Of lower tier that apparently seem to be innocent start to become more sinister. You begin to see patterns everywhere, realizing you only dip your toes in the conspiracy world. Very few people believe or have heard of stuff from this level. First up, we have the Zopa tribe and the related Dropas stones. This one was really interesting.
I never heard
in 1938, a Chinese research team went to the Himalayan mountains in search of some ore deposit that had been picked up by geographers. Once the team got there, however, they found 716 graves hidden in the back of these tunnel systems that ran through the Himalayan mountains. What's even weirder was inside of each of these graves was a 4-foot-tall human skeleton with an abnormally large-sized skull. The tombs were filled with ciphers and hieroglyphics that didn't make sense, but located on each one of the grave was a circular disc that have since been termed the Dropa stones. Each of these discs are estimated to be 12,000 years old and contain minerals such as cobalt, which is very rare and normally only found on meteorites, at least, in the Himalayan mountains. Years later, research from a Russian university determined that the hieroglyphics on the Dropa stones read out prime numbers. Since this experience, the Chinese government has censored all information regarding it and made that section of the Himalayas a travel zone. So yeah, starting off with the
China, why y'all so cringe, bro? Dude, China. Oh, frick, Genshin is sponsoring my next video. China, actually, I think you're pretty pog, not gonna lie. January 26th on the main channel. Really appreciate that Genshin sponsorship. Man, do I love China. You know what? You censoring all this info, I would argue that that is a pro-gamer move.
Good one. Lord Packle's time machine relates to the Mayan king, Lord Packle. When researchers found his coffin, they noticed the odd inscriptions on the lid of the coffin that showed him laying inside of what seemed to be some sort of machinery interacting with this very diverse device for whatever reason. What's especially odd is the related Mayan transcriptions in the area spoke that Lord Packle had the ability to control the turning of the sun and things such as. Whoa! What's even weirder is upon further inspection of the body in the coffin, it is estimated to be that of a 30 to 40-year-old man. Lord Packle was king of this Mayan area for 80 years. So either someone else is buried in Lord Packle's grave, or that inscription of him controlling a machine and turning back the moon and the stars may have some worth to it.
Yo, that is so cool, bro. That's so cool. Oh my god. Okay, obviously, whatever. I obviously don't believe that he had a time machine. Okay, this dude was a king for 80 years, buried, and then they found a 40-year-old corpse, a corpse of a man that was in his 40s when he died? Bruh, that's pretty crazy.
Monsanto is essentially your stereotypical evil conglomerate company. They have been known to sue farmers for using natural pesticides and growing supplements. They have been known to fund government campaigns in which the elected politician plans to cut back on restrictions regarding the environment, and have even gone as far to cover up cancer research on their specific products when it's been known to, cause cancer. Of course, as you can imagine, Monsanto is at the center of a lot of conspiracies regarding big pharma and evil tech and things such as. Vimanas are interesting, and one of the weirdest parts, I think, whenever you look into this whole ancient alien idea. In old Hindu and Sanskrit text, there are these records of these giant flying palaces, and they're not mentioned in any supernatural or strange sense. They're simply depictions and writings of these giant floating palaces that would exist above the Himalayan mountains. It's so odd to me whenever you look at stuff like this, how old world countries would simply just be like, oh yeah, flying houses, those are a thing. North Korea Utopia is exactly what it says. It's the idea that North Korea is actually a secretive, perfect world, but that Western media and European media simply discredit it as order to discredit communism and lift up capitalism. That's at least the main version. The other version is a bit more...
I don't really think you need to discredit communism. You don't need to come up with all these mental gymnastics to discredit communism, okay? Just say it.
Interesting, I think. It's the idea that beneath North Korea is a perfect utopia, but in order to seem unassuming to the world around them, periodically different citizens are sent to live on the surface for years at a time in order to maintain a low-key look, while they live in perfection and disease-free beneath. However, the first version is usually the most popular, as it's simply saying that our governments are censoring information as to not give us an idea that other systems of government could work better. L'Enfant, also known as Pierre L'Enfant, was the...
They call it L'Enfant? L'Enfant! You don't speak French? Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Oh my god.
Chief architect who designed the streets for Washington, D.C. In his notes, he said he used the celestial bodies in order to map out the routes for D.C. That's why D.C. has very odd street planning when it comes...
Bro, he made streets based off constellations. As they say in French, grange!
comes to diagonal cuts and things such as. But as other people have pointed out, these streets also line up in satanic shapes, such as several pentagrams or old world geographic shapes being formed by DC streets. This all relates back to the idea that he was funded by the Freemasons and that the original leaders of the United States knew what he was up to, and it's all Illuminati,
it's a big
Satan,
transmutation circle, so he could turn them all into juice, like in
government. Yeah, the grand unified conspiracy theory is rather diverse depending on who you ask. Normally it looks something like this, and it's just the idea that reptilians and big pharma and Illuminati and Satanism and all that interconnect with each other, and it is all one conspiracy theory that we just look at certain aspects of. Cyber squatting, time travel.
I actually talked about that earlier in the stream. It's crazy how many of these actually like bump into each other.
It's pretty funny. For those who don't know, cyber squatting is the practice of buying URLs or usernames on websites that you know are the names of famous people or companies in the hopes that they will one day buy that domain off of you. So the time traveler aspect is hilarious. The only evidence I could find with any of this was supposedly odd names that wouldn't have made a lot of sense, but I mean, you could just chalk that up to people hoping to get lucky. Comic-Con child recruitment's pretty sad. Just the fact that there are children every year during Comic-Con who go missing. The idea of which being they're abducted by human trafficking rings. However, the conspiracy goes a level deeper. It says that
please don't say that the human trafficking rings are all the Smash Bros community. I can't take this kind of abuse.
Comic-Con knows of this behavior, but they are paid off in order to turn a blind eye or to not better tied in security to prevent this type of thing. Plastic surgery runaways was just vague enough that it was hard to find any information on. I believe this is referring to the fact that there are plastic surgeons who will famously perform surgery on either runaways or people who have been kidnapped. This wraps back into human trafficking, but it adds an extra layer to it by implying that medical professionals, or at least some, are in on the whole scheme. Lifetide is a book written by Lyle Watson. A lot of the complex in it are pretty intense. From what little brief reading I did on it, it seems to be the idea that humans are artificial or can at least summon an artificial...
Yo, someone in chat just said human trafficking is wrong, and I would like to bring attention to this person. Brave enough to make a take. So brave. So ballsy. A take of such magnitude that, like, I mean... I applaud you. I applaud you for being so brave, voicing your opinion on such a dark subject. Honestly, I have, like, so much respect for you right now. Dude in chat, you changed the way I look at life. Human trafficking is wrong, bro.
Self through their thoughts, and it all has to do with introspection and the idea of looking inwards to bring out the better self. So a lot of sort of Eastern philosophy, yogi type ideas. Baltic Sea Anomaly refers to an event that happened in 2011 in which a fishing ship that was using sonar caught this image while looking at the bottom of the Baltic Sea. The Baltic Sea is, as you...
What? That's at the bottom of the sea? Oh my god.
Could imagine pretty deep. And the idea behind this being that it is a UFO that crashed on the planet some time ago. It's still there to this day. However, for anyone who knows anything about sea travel, it is much, much harder to keep someone alive underwater than it is in space. This is...
Wait, what the hell? What could that be, though? Halo? I don't know. That's so scary.
Due to things like pressure, and the deeper you go into water, the harder it is to maintain, which is the reason we normally just send submersibles really deep, and it costs a lot of money. So no one's seen it fit to investigate this yet, or that's what they want you to think. But either way, as far as this...
Dude, there's no straight lines in nature. Whatever, I'm going to sound like such a nerd, but I ended up working with a radiologist at one point, and what the number one rule, like if you see any like x-ray or whatever with a straight line, it's either the machine that made a mistake because it's not natural, or it's like a spike or something like stuck into the person or whatever. Like it's not, there's nothing, no straight lines in nature.
This moment goes, all we know about is there's this odd shape down there. Planned extinction is just referring to the fact of an idea that was mentioned in previous tiers that humanity will eventually become extinct, and how this might even be a good thing in order to save the planet. That's the entire idea of eco-triage.
I value humanity more than the stupid planet. The planet. What do I care about the planet if there's no humanity? Let's be real here, okay? Humanity, way more pog than the planet. I'm just saying, because the planet without humanity, lame. I'm just saying, why save the planet if there's no humanity? Planet is more pog, bro. Who cares about the planet? It's just big ass rock. This stupid rock. I wouldn't sacrifice a single man's life for this rock, okay? Unless that man is like a pedophile or a Nazi or something. Then, in which case, I would make some exception. But you get what I'm saying.
We have to cut off the bleeding somewhere, the bleeding being us, in order to save our ecosystem. Haunted locations world map. From everything I can find, there are several maps that display different haunted locations in the world. So perhaps looking into each of them and researching. If that's what this does means, this could literally go on forever. But I think it's just referring to the fact that there are documented records of haunted places around the world, and that should be at least a little bit concerning. Artificial poisonous snow is something that occurs in mostly Midwest cities from everything I could find, in which snow will occasionally fall from the sky and not melt for a very extended amount of time, and whenever flames is held to it, it becomes black. The implication in this being that the government or some other force is raining this artificial snow on us to poison in us in some way. However, in the extra research I did on this, I think this is just pollution. King Babylon's world control is kind of vague because there is no King Babylon. Babylon was an empire. There are kings like Nebuchadnezzar II and Hammurabi, and each have their own
Bro, there's Gilgamesh, okay? The king of kings. You're gonna forget about my man Gilgamesh, world control? This doesn't seem so far-fetched. This is just the best arc of the Fate franchise.
Conspiracy theories. If I had to guess, this is specifically referring to in the book of Revelations where it talks about Babylon will be the downfall of the new world empires and things such as, which I think this is basically referring to the idea that there will be strength rise up from the east, so to speak. However, that's all speculation. What I believe the conspiracy is referring to is just this idea in Revelations and the idea that at some point there will be a leader rise up in the Middle East who will dominate control of at least several world powers. Depopulation funds is very closely related to the planned extinction I talked about earlier. When it comes to this, everything I could find mostly related back to Bill Gates and ideas that money is being put into several ecological departments that are studying things such as, and everything else I could find on it related back to the idea that they are planning to get rid of what they refer to as useless eaters, which is actually a term originally coined in Nazi Germany and just refers to people who take up space in a population without contributing. So if it ever got to a point where we were losing our ecosystem fast and we had to immediately correct the human population, the first to go would be these useless eaters, or whoever the government rules is not fit to continue.
So what you're saying is Bill Gates is just Thanos, and the Infinity Gauntlet is just money. Oh my god! It's all a metaphor! The Avengers of Endgame is just a metaphor for rich assholes. Oh my god.
Basically. SCPs based on real life is just saying one of two options, that either the SCP Foundation is real and that all the
YouTubers would be the first to go. Alright, chat. I would argue YouTubers have more value to society than celebrities, okay? If one group of people is gonna go first, it's gotta be celebrities, okay? YouTubers are worth more, okay? They lead normal lives. Celebrities add nothing to society. They are the most useless part of... Okay, dude, any celebrity that wants to collab with me, I am totally open to that, and I would love to collab with you, okay? James Corden, you may strike me as a complete asshole dumbfuck, but I would collab with you if you offered. But I think that celebrities are the lowest rung in society. Why do people listen to celebrities? I don't mean to... Okay, dude, this is a total random tangent. Well, why do people respect the opinions of celebrities? Oh, yes, the Kardashian said, I must follow and obey. Oh, Kardashian is voting for this presidential candidate. Well, in that case, I will too. Dude, that is so freaking cringe. Oh, my God. It's just a person, okay? Not even a smart person.
logs have been linked by disgruntled SCP agents, or some real-life supernatural phenomena is hidden in SCP files, both to keep the identity of the person who uploaded safe and to warn whatever few people may read it of what's really out there. I personally like the second one more since it's at least sort of plausible. So yeah, holotropic breathwork is a practice that is found in a lot of yogi circles, especially Chinese and other Eastern philosophies. It's the idea that quick, fast breaths for time periods up to even 3 hours can cause the body to sort of reset itself and be more in touch with the inner self. And from this, you can derive true knowledge, spiritualism.
It's just Hamon! It's a JoJo reference. This man is... This whole conspiracy theory iceberg is just an excuse to talk about JoJo's. I see what it's all about right now. I've opened my third eye. I have reached nirvana. You know how? By breathing in and out really fast for 3 hours. True
whatever
story.
Have you for the situation. Hermeneutics is about critiquing things from a sense of inner self. Basically,
bro, everything I do is hermeneutics. 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 Got it. Everything I do is hermeneutics, okay? Every time someone says, haha, your mom gay, and I say no you, I will have you recognize the fact that my hermeneutists is attacking you from a sense of inner self. Get absolutely owned.
everything I could find on it is just the idea that if there's a literary text or some other form of media that you're trying to understand, that you have to embellish from the self in order to truly understand it, and that people talking doesn't really accomplish anything without meditation. Almost every application I could find of this...
True, by the way. I completely realized this as well. People talking does not accomplish anything aside from meditation. Now, the reason for this is I think people would rather be wrong but not admit they're wrong than find the truth. And because that's the case, you will never convince anyone of everything. People are such closed-minded dildos, okay? Not even gonna lie. These absolute idiots, okay? It's like, holy crap, discussing with people, trying to convince someone of something else? Bruh, it's like stretching their butthole. and trying to give them an orgasm. Definitely one of my weirder analogies, but I agree!
To the Bible, and there are several people who have their own interpretations of the Bible using hermeneutics. The sea people were interesting. When I saw the title, I thought this would just be referring to Atlantis fish people or whatever, but it's not at all. From 1200 to 900 BC, there was a group of people who are only known in history as the sea people who went around the Mediterranean Sea.
Wait, this is 900 BC, so that's okay.
Fighting different nations, famously of which was Egypt around 1000 BC. These people
1000 BC. When were the Jewish people slaves in Egypt? That was around 1000 BC, right? Interesting.
People were supposed to be taller than the average person. No specific mention of giants, just that they were rather large, and they were great fighters and plunderers, and from everything I read, the earliest possible version of pirates. What's interesting is no one knows where they came from. About every other
The sea, probably. Cringe.
player around the Mediterranean was noted for at that time, and to this day no one knows where the sea people came from
That's so
or
cool.
where they went, and they just forever remain this kind of blip in history.
That's so cool. Oh my god.
Cryptogeography is exactly what it sounds like how
Dude, if you mention these bored-ass, ugly-looking monkey-ass NFTs, I will slap your face through the screen.
cryptozoology is the study of paranormal animals. Cryptogeography is the study of paranormal spaces.
Let's freaking go! It's not nothing to do with bored monkeys. It said paranormal animals, and I was about to lose my shit. Oh yes, you see this monkey.
So Bermuda Triangle, haunted sites, yada yada. Infrared laundry balls is the fact that laundry detergent balls that supposedly even in advertising for them mention that they clean clothes with an infrasonic wave actually elicit enough of the stuff to harm the individual. However, whenever companies say stuff like that, they're just using big words to try to talk over people's head and make them think they know what they're doing because no they don't. Neg entropy or negative entropy is a concept that exists in thermal physics. The idea is all sources of energy derive from heat in some regard. They either bring heat in or let it out. And any action of energy dispels heat in some way. This makes sense if you think about it more. However, a theoretical negative entropy item would bring in heat or ambient energy in the air whenever it performs a task or does any function. This would theoretically cause a sort of paradoxical loop in which something can be done without taking in energy, and as a matter of fact, creating more of it while also doing more. So this could spiral on forever and ever. And if you read theories on this in the universe, so that's cool. I'll be honest. I could not find anything on Nexus 7. There was one website called Nexus 7 that had a few creepy articles on it, but that was the name of the website and not a conspiracy in general. Nexus 7 is both the name of the Android laptop or pad or tablet, whatever it is, and another theory for the movie Blade Runner that one of the characters was a Nexus 7 model. So anything I look up for theory or analysis goes to one of the two, and I have absolutely no idea what this could be referring to unless the tablet or the character from Blade Runner has a conspiracy behind it. It's come to my attention at this point that when this is all over, I'll need to do a corrections video because there's a few other minor details I messed up on. So if anyone can tell me in the comments what this Nexus 7 thing means, I will absolutely give you credit for it, and I can quit trying to look up pictures of tablets. So yeah, sorry about that, but I promise I tried. The Black Hope Curse is an interesting one. In Houston, Texas, there was a family that moved into a small suburb and immediately began noticing odd things happening around their house. Until one day, an old man showed up and told them that they had bodies in their backyard. The family didn't believe him, but after digging up the backyard, they discovered that there was, in fact, 2 dead bodies buried side by side. It turns out the neighborhood was built on top of an old slave cemetery, the name of which was Black Hope Cemetery. The family reburied the bodies and set up a memorial for them. However, things kept getting worse around the house. At first, it was subtle, such as a missing pair of shoes here or a slight noise down the hallway there, until eventually it became more malicious. Things that were being lost in the house were found on top of the graves in the backyard. After doing research, the mother figured out that these 2 were a buried slave couple, and she felt that by disturbing their grave, she had made them angry. This led to an eventual legal battle with the neighborhood because they sold them a house and didn't tell them there was bodies under it, to which the judge said he would need definitive proof that there were bodies under the house. The mother, in a rage, went back home and began digging up around her yard. Her daughter, who was helping her, came across another body, said she felt ill, and immediately had a seizure, and then died 2 days later in the hospital. The family moved out of the house, the bodies were covered up, and to this day it said that the Black Hope Curse still resides in Houston, Texas. Falun Gong is
my god, that is so scary. This man fighting a real estate turf war with ghosts? Sheesh, god damn.
It's an interesting one, as it seems to be a religion that's derived from Chinese philosophy that also went at odds with the Chinese government. Although initial reports are mixed of why this rivalry started, we know it got to the point that there was about 70 million Falun Gong members who all stood at odds with the Chinese government. This became a total smear campaign in which the government was
You know who's not on odds with the Chinese government? The guy that's sponsored by Genshin Impact. Le moi, Chinese government fanboy 69, as I'm known. Thank you once again.
blocking the word Falun Gong online, throwing various members in prison. It's even estimated that about 2,000 Falun Gong members were killed while in prison. What's even more interesting is that this religion and the founders of it went on to found the Epoch Times, which is now a pretty well-known news source that constantly talks bad about the Chinese government, and seeing where they came from, you could kind of guess why. Geometrodynamics is sort of the theoretical geometry to theoretical physics, and the idea that natural phenomenon and the universe universe itself can be described and quantitated through geometry. So super, super next level math stuff. Tor, owned by the government, is in reference to the internet browser Tor, also known as the Onion, which lets people access the dark web. What's funny is this conspiracy Iceberg was written in 2017, and it has since been proven without a shadow of a doubt that Tor is absolutely run by the government. Not only was it only created to perform government things such as on unlisted websites, but it is also known that they monitor certain transactions on it in order to figure out where people are and what they're doing. And certain upkeep cost for the Tor browser is funded by certain state departments, if secretly so. So yeah, look at this all grown up. Something that was on the conspiracy Iceberg now making its way into headlines. Isn't that cute?
Bro, that's actually really scary. It took them 5 years to prove this, but god damn, son. This is a conspiracy theory that actually became, like, verified later. And this is, dude, we're on the 4th part of the iceberg. That's pretty deep. Oh my god.
Cave Dweller Holocaust, while I couldn't find a very specific instance, is in reference to the idea that there were at one point at least 2 different kinds of humanoid creatures, one of which being us, the other being troglodytes, or cave-dwelling creatures. The idea being that
so Twitter users. Us and people that live on Twitter to spread fear.
At some point, we hunted and killed these troglodytes, either out of self-defense or just to stay at the top of the food chain.
I mean, to be fair, if they were Twitter users, I would not even be against this.
This relates to several old world mythologies and stories relating to a troglodyte or cave dweller type creature, but obviously none existing in our present sense.
They're called troglodytes in the modern era. A lot of people are unaware of this. It's the bottom feeders on Twitter that decide to cancel you because they feel like it.
Bilateral Commission is a board that was founded in 1973 by John Rockefeller, and yes, that's the Rockefeller name. They meet twice a year in Tokyo, Japan, and the board is made up of United States, Western European, Japanese, and Canadian members who discuss, kind of like the Bilderberg meetings, capitalism and other adult things. I don't know what they say they do. It's absolutely rife with conspiracies. Like reading about these people, they get blamed from everything from 9/11 to John F. Kennedy, even though they didn't exist yet. So yeah, super creepy, top 1% elitist, meet every year and talk about stuff. Also, I should mention, especially with that one, I'm at the point in researching this stuff that whenever I type some of this in, the first results are what are you talking about? You don't want to look up that. Look at this picture of Trump and Epstein. Or like the first 10 search results will just be headline after headline that's like, the dumbest conspiracy of the year, ? See why people don't trust the elite. So yeah, I can only imagine what the other 6 tiers are going to be like. Dolphin Intelligence is exactly what it says. The idea that dolphins are much more intelligent than they're given credit for. But in the more conspiracy side of stuff, it is more so than even the government's letting on. Ideas being that tests with dolphins have shown that they have very complex thought processes, even understanding of right and wrong. However, in order to not discredit our role as top of the food chain, so to speak, all media regarding them simply is like, oh, aren't they a smart animal? When in reality, we're locking up and caging things with complex emotions and conscious. So, again, only good thoughts on this channel.
So it's, again, like the way Twitter molds your mind, same thing is happening to dolphins. Dolphins are like cogs in a massive machine. So sad.
Showers refers to the Kentucky meat shower that occurred in 1876, as witnessed by many people on a farm in Kentucky, specifically Bath County, Kentucky. For several minutes, chunks of meat anywhere from 2 to 4 inches wide rained from the sky. And this isn't just like a few pieces after the other, this is like a shower of the stuff. To the point that the entire ground was covered with it in a 100-foot radius. This was 1876, so research was weird. There are some people who said that it was essentially a giant cyanobacteria, others who said it was human flesh, and then researchers who pulled meat from the area got everything back to human, deer, to bear, to whatever. Also, I should mention the amount of people who ate this meat off the ground and said it was either chicken or horse was alarming. Himalayan zombie
Oh god, you imagine there's a meat shower, you're standing there, tending to your crops, and all of a sudden, meat falls out of the sky, and you eat it.
refers to the ideas of zombies that exist in Himalayan cultures that more so follow the entire voodoo idea of zombies as a resurrected servant of the dead. A lot of the mythology around them is really cool, such as the fact they're not allowed to bend over as they are sort of this hardened corpse, so several houses in the Himalayas will have the door built lower just so these creatures can't get in. They're also specifically...
Whoa, that's so cool! In the Himalayas, they have these lowered door frames so that these zombies can't get in? That's actually so sick!
To as rolling, and there are 5 different kinds of rolling that each have their own weaknesses, ranging from you have to break one of its bones to you have to hit it on a specific spot on its body, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, the balls.
Where a lot of the creepiness of this comes from is that Himalayan tour guides will be walking with people up the mountain, and travelers who have been with these tour guides will point to someone standing way off in the distance, to which the tour guide will simply say that's a rolling. Don't look at it and just keep walking. So the idea that there is these mystic zombies existing on the Himalayan mountains to either do the will of their master or simply keep foreigners out is both very scary and very cool.
Yo, that's a really cool one, actually. God damn, you see this guy in the distance just standing there? Hey, what's that? Oh, that's a rolling. Pay no attention to that one. Then they just keep going? God damn, what? That's actually creepy.
Philosophies is just this very specific idea, and the principle that whenever judging something, be it someone, some idea, or some piece of work, that interacting with other people
judging
doesn't help, and you
yourself.
have to pull everything out of yourself in order to actually
We
understand
all
how you
know
feel about it,
that's not
and
a
that's where true
conspiracy.
understanding comes from. It's very closely related to hermeneutics, which I talked about earlier. Next is Civil War sightings. This is pretty vague, and there are a lot of paranormal events that existed throughout the Civil War, some of which include the Nicolas Cage vampire, I'm not kidding on that one, a pterodactyl that was shot down, and the green-eyed thing. But what I think this is referring to is the ghost sightings that have taken place after the war. Well, there are several of these. I will stick to a few of the most notable ones that occurred at Gettysburg. For one, at Little Round Top, during the filming of the movies Gettysburg, extras that were in Union uniforms were sitting in the woods, to which then an old Union soldier, who smelled of gunpowder and looked very rustic and dirty, came up to the men and began talking about how much this fight meant to him, handing out ammunition, and then ran away. When the men got back to the shooting site, that man wasn't there, and no one had any record of an extra being there. After presenting the munitions to the prop department, they said this isn't theirs, and this is real munitions from the Civil War. Sachs Bridge is another one in which a group of teenagers who were walking over the bridge began hearing horses running and cannon fire go off, to which they got scared, ran away, then decided they should go back. When they went back, they saw the apparitions of people on horseback jumping over the river and riding up the hill. There are several reports that while at Gettysburg, people have heard cannon fire and the sounds of battle raging on, the idea being that these people are stuck in a perpetual loop. My favorite, however, out of all these is that of the ghostly surgery room. There was a building on the Gettysburg battlefield that at the time was being used as a field hospital. That building is now a library. A few years ago, two men were taking the elevator down to the basement. When the basement doors opened, it was not the basement that they knew, and instead it was a very old Civil War era appearing room that was full with patients and doctors running around, and it was the full scene to them of this entire hospital in motion. Both of the men freaked out, and one of them rapidly pressed on the button to go back up, and just as the doors were closed, he made eye contact with a nurse who saw him for a brief second. This last one's especially cool because it gets into one of my favorite theories about ghosts, that of being since time is an illusion, there are moments in which time doesn't react correctly, and two people standing in the same place interact with each other without knowing it. So the idea that this nurse all the way back then saw people from the future, and they made eye contact for a brief second. It's just a really cool thought process when it comes to a better understanding of the world, and time is sort of a construct. Anyway, that does it for part 1 of tier 4.
Yo, that's really dope. Oh my god, that's a really sick theory. That's a cool conspiracy. I'm not into the whole ghost thing, but I love these stories. Layer 4, part 2.
Back for the second half of tier 4. MIRL cults, the acronym MIRL refers to meet in real life, is in reference to the fact that several online internet cults actually form into real world cults that perform different ritualistic acts or things like that when they meet in person. Every bit of information I can find pointed towards a specific setting in which around the 2010s in Los Angeles there were several murders that occurred.
Hookers, okay? God, grow a pair.
Supposedly by an internet cult that started online, but this is just in reference to that idea. The Toronto Protocol is in reference to French documents that were found in 1985. Supposedly, this document was a French translation of a form that was handed out to several different world powers and world elites around the same time. The basis of this document was that in order to pass agendas into society, that they first need to begin by breaking down ideas of family, ideas of tradition, and things such as. One of the main things in the manifesto was destroying religion by indoctrinating communities with the idea that religion is not a good thing and should instead be handed off to governments and things like that to mandate what the people think. Of course, this all relates back to Illuminati, New World Order.
Man, I do love when people tell me what to think. Don't you love when people tell you what to think, guys? Don't you love when, like, people are like, oh, yo, don't think. Just follow, guys.
Order type stuff, but the reason it's called the Toronto Protocol is because it was originally discovered in Toronto, or by someone in Toronto. The Perestroika Deception, at least I think that's how it's pronounced, is in reference to a new USSR idea that came out of the Cold War. Out of the Cold War, Gorbachev developed this idea of Perestroika, which is essentially saying that in order to further progress the communist ideal within Russia, that they need to be more subdued about it and not as gung-ho as they were during the Cold War in trying to push socialist ideas on others. The idea of the Perestroika Deception comes from KGB defector Anatoly Golitsyn, which said that Perestroika was just a subversion in order to get the world looking away from socialist ideas being implanted into other countries, and instead it would be done slowly through political uprising and behind the scenes movements and things like that. Essentially, the idea that communism is still on the rise, just in a much more subtle and careful way than it was in the Cold War. Presentism is a philosophy very commonly seen in the modern world. It is the idea that people need to be anti-critical about things that happen around them, such as the news, real world events, and things such as, and should instead focus on the here and now and simply consume media and things like that rather than thinking about what they're doing. The idea behind it is that New World Order, Illuminati stuff purposefully injects this into the population to make them more submissive to whatever agendas they try to propagate. The Boots Void.
I mean, I am submissive and breedable, but this is taking that to a whole new extreme.
Burt's Void, not sure how to pronounce that. It is a region in space that is 330 million light years in radius. It is also known as the Super Void, and the reason it's called this, it is a peculiarly large amount of space for so few galaxies. Originally in 1960, it was estimated that only 8 galaxies existed in this entire 330 million wide area. After modern research, it's believed the number is closer to 2,000, but still, that puts it at less than 1/10 of the normal galaxy compaction that occurs throughout space. It raises a question as to why such a wide area of space is completely unpopulated. Some even take this theory to the extent and say that it is because of alien races that colonize and destroy galaxies as they come across from them, and we are simply seeing the aftermath of that. Yellow Cuban balloons is in reference to 7 yellow balloons that were found in a box off the coast of Florida in the 1970s. Given the address and the date on the box and the condition of the box itself, it was estimated that these had been floating in the ocean for roughly 8 weeks. The address on this box said that they were from the USSR to Cuba. When opening the box, they discovered 7 identical yellow balloons that were all inflated with what seemed to be normal air lying in the bottom of the box. After doing research on them, there was absolutely nothing weird about the box itself. There was no wrong condition to the gas inside of the box. There was nothing special about the box itself. But for some reason, these balloons were just being shipped in a crate to Cuba for seemingly no reason. And why were they floating in the middle of the ocean? It's still one of those old Cold War mysteries that have never been solved and probably never will. Driver killed JFK is specifically in mention to William Greer. And while initial reports that came out immediately after John F. Kennedy's murder believed him to be the shooter as he turns back to Kennedy in the Zapruder film before the shot goes out, the actual version of events makes a bit more sense. The driver, William Greer, as well as the passenger in the front seat were both CIA agents, and going into the idea that the CIA murdered Kennedy, things start to add up. For example, why after the first shot was fired did he slow down instead of hitting the gas, driving, turning around, doing anything, but he brought the car down to a 7-mile-an-hour speed? Also, keep in mind, after the first shot went out, him and the guy in the front seat seemed to duck in the picture before he turns around. If William Greer himself did not murder the president, the theory says that he was in the know on the circumstances that would lead to his death. So much so that Jackie, after the fact, said several times how odd it was his driving, and she blames John's death on the actions of William Greer in not reacting fast enough, or not wanting to react fast enough. Fracking deaths refers to the fact that around fracking instances, there seems to be an uncharacteristically large amount of deaths.
Yo, I just watched Umbrella Academy on Netflix, and they had this whole like JFK death thing theory. Bruh, that was whack.
From consequences of fracking. For example, it's estimated through reports that in Appalachia alone, roughly 1,200 to 4,600 people have been killed by side effects of fracking, i.e. air pollution, water pollution, and things such as. Given the places that these deaths occur, it is believed that the government knows that fracking causes these deaths and are either purposefully doing it in areas they want to exterminate, or at least allowing it to happen to quell the local populace.
I like to believe, I mean, I hear your theory about how the government created fracking and they know that it's causing cancer and all that, and they're just letting it happen anyway. But think about it this way. What about the government creates fracking and everyone's so focused on the fact that it's giving people cancer that they're ignoring and not recognizing the fact that fracking is just a massive D's nuts joke, lying in plain sight. I mean, hey, that's just a theory. A conspiracy theory!
Esoteric Hitlerism is exactly what it says.
What is this picture? What am I looking at? What the frick is this? Who made this? Who was like, ah, yes, I am going to draw esoteric Hitlerism. Yes, yes.
Finding ideas of Hitler from World War II with esotericism, and says that the Third Reich was propagating several sort of universal spiritual ideas in their methodology, and that in the more extreme versions of this, Hitler himself is a form of deity. All the research you do with this leads back to Agartha and Central Earth, and the idea that Hitler essentially raised himself to godhood. Red rooms are the name given to several dark...
What is with conspiracy theories and like the weird internet cults like freaking loving Hitler? The man was like a monster. It's so weird to me. I don't understand how he keeps showing up.
Web pages in which people are either killed or tortured for the enjoyment of others online. A lot of this, as you read into it, gets into human trafficking, and while we know for a fact red rooms exist, what makes it even scarier is that all of these people had to come from somewhere, more than likely abduction cases that happen around the US and the rest of the world every year. Plant intelligence is in reference to the theory that plants have a higher intelligence than initially thought of by people. What I mean by this is that we understand that plants react to certain stimuli in certain ways, such as trees will grow in the direction of sunlight, or certain mosses will react to being touched, and things such as. It goes into a further level in saying that plants have a version of consciousness that we just don't understand, and the idea that nature is alive in more literal a sense than we normally mean it. Now come to talk.
So the theory is, we know plants are dumbasses, and there's definitely still dumbasses, and definitely don't have will, but they're plants.
Talk to you about last Thursdayism, because I promised if this topic was ever covered in the Iceberg, I would let them, is my girlfriend and last Thursdayism expert, Kayla.
Hello. Last Thursdayism, also known as the Omphalos hypothesis, I don't know how to say that, it's Omphalos, is an idea based around the book of Genesis and creationism that states that when God made the earth, he would have obviously had to make Adam and Eve fully grown with hair, a navel, skin, toenails, and that the grass would have been months-old grass at least, and the earth would have been fully formed in a way that made it look 1,000,000 years old. The whole idea of it stems from Philip Henry Goss, who wrote a book with the same name, Omphalos. The natural progression of the idea...
I mean, isn't that just the theory that a lot of people give to, like, dinosaurs and stuff, right? Like, when it says that in the Bible that the world was created and Adam was made on the 6th day, it was like a fully formed earth. So, yes, there were dinosaurs already and stuff. It's an 1,000,000,000-year-old earth that was created by God. Just like Adam was created as an adult, so too the planet, the earth, was created as an adult. So that's not a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and where the conspiracy theory comes in is that God or the creator, whatever you believe in, could have done everything as soon as last Thursday, hence last Thursdayism, which means that we could have been created just as early as last Thursday. Every memory, every thought, everything we ever thought we felt would have been implanted into our brains as early as last Thursday. It's a very interesting theory. It's my favorite one ever.
It's an interesting theory, but it's really cool because it doesn't matter at all. Yeah, it's fascinating that it could possibly could be that we were all created last Thursday with memories of like an entire life that we've lived until last Thursday, but it turns out it just doesn't matter.
Because to me, it feels like, yeah, that totally could be possible. So.
Okay, dude.
Thank you, Kayla. Acosmism is more of an abstract idea, and it essentially says that nothing in reality is real except for God. So what that means in a practical sense is that...
last Thursdayism was made by someone who murdered someone on Wednesday. I'm just saying. This dude murders somebody on Wednesday and comes up with last Thursdayism, bro. It's totally not my fault, dog. It's not my fault. I'm telling you. I was created as a murderer. It's not my fault. Dude, they're perfect for each other, though. I ship Wendigoon and his girlfriend. Just saying.
None of your experiences, none of what you know is reality. Instead, there's just a god or hierarchical being that is implanting these ideas into us. So essentially, everything's in a simulation given to us by a deity.
Wednesday is a social construct.
The Bouvet Island lifeboat is in reference to Bouvet Island, which is known to be the most uninhabited or uninhabitable island in the world. It is located north off the coast of Antarctica and is essentially a giant glacial rock that is formed that has absolutely no greenery or no sense of sustainability on it. In 1964, one of the first crews to ever go research the island, when they got to the island, found a lifeboat that was not just sitting there, but pulled onto shore. However, around it, they could not find any footprints, any evidence of life, nothing. But something got that lifeboat to shore, then pulled it on. There were never any bodies found, anything else discovered. It simply remains a mystery of how that boat got there. A lot of the theories that have to do with it reference back to the idea of Agartha and that German soldiers from World War II who were moving that direction when they got stranded there and later picked up, and that goes in line with the entire idea that the Nazis found Agartha in Antarctica and then tried to move their troops there once the war was over. Abiogenic oil is the thought that oil, as we know it, is not actually a fossil fuels given from dinosaurs or other prehistoric creatures, and is instead come from an entirely non-biotic process. Essentially, it would work that carbon monoxide and hydrogen rise up to the surface combined with zirconium and created a petrohydroxyl. What that essentially means is that through a mix of natural gases, oil was formed instead of the way that we normally think of it as fossil fuels. Secret societies today is vague, but you get the idea. Just the idea that the Freemasons, Illuminati, and stuff like that are all these conspiracy networks that still exist and operate today outside of the public eye. Real Mizium is kind of hard to figure out on because I can't find a reference to any Mizium with real in the beginning of it, but Mizium itself is in reference to an event that happened on 4chan a few years back. Essentially, a new user appeared on the site called Mizium that said that they were an alien from a different planet who was simply stopping by, connected to the internet, and wanted to know if people had any questions. After answering questions in a sort of vague manner, people started requesting that they take pictures of their house or of their geographic location. Mizium then went around to these areas and started snapping pictures of people's houses from the sky or different areas of the earth and things such as, and it even got to the point that someone asked them to go take a picture of the moon, to which they took a few and sent them back, and through reverse Google image search, no one could find any records of these photos online. Furthermore, someone asked Mizium to come to their house. The person then went outside and started recording, and in the recording, you can see a giant triangular ship pass by overhead and keep on going. The guy filming starts freaking out, comes back to 4chan, says that Mizium's real, and then at the end of this entire thing, Mizium said, well, gotta go, my family's here, and took off. So I guess Real Mizium is just saying that Mizium was not a hoax. So yeah.
That's bullshit, dog. Yeah, right. He flew his drone to the moon. Okay, dude. Yo, it's just the guy that went out to meet Mizian was Mizian, okay? And he's like, oh my god, I just saw a triangle thing fly past me. Mizian has left the chat. Come on, dude, please.
Planets can have two possible definitions.
It smell like bullshit.
One of them is the idea that the Kessler effect, or Kessler syndrome, which is something that we've seen happen on Earth, in which debris from satellites and things such as are continuously hitting and bouncing off of each other, and essentially creating a cloud around the world till eventually we probably won't be able to get spaceships out because this clutter will be too much. This theory goes further to the point that the idea we haven't interacted with extraterrestrials yet is because they have done the same thing in their own time and made it impossible to escape their planet. The other theory is that humans are not the natural members of planet Earth, and some thousand years ago, humans were brought to Earth as a sort of prison planet by extraterrestrials. The evidence for this is things such as humans are not meant to walk upright, and that we constantly get lower back pains from the way our bodies are positioned, and that we are supposed to be living in a different kind of atmosphere. This also would explain why such old world cults and religions had ideas of flying saucers and look to the stars and things such as, essentially as a means that we were put here as punishment, and we spent the last 1,000 years trying to get back out. Malta catacombs is in reference to a series of catacombs that were discovered in the 1960s around Malta, Italy. The stories of this one get weird. The way it was discovered is that home contractors were digging around the area and accidentally broke through the rock into this complete underground labyrinth that had never been discovered. After researchers went in, they discovered it was much, much bigger than just one room, and
the Earth is just a giant Australia.
Instead was a necropolis, or city of the dead, in which 7,000 bodies were buried in these underground catacombs. What's especially weird is why they all had sort of a ritual done with their burial. It seems as incense was burned on each of them. Inside of there was Christians, Muslims, Jews, and other different competing religions, all buried in this one area.
Did he call them competing religions? Is that a thing people say? I don't know. It's just funny to me. It's like, you know, a Jew, a rabbi, an imam, and a priest walk into a bar. Just start. Yes.
What's even weirder is that on examining them, several of the skulls were elongated, and not to the point
What?
of skull binding that is found in several sort of African cultures in old world history, like these very, very long non-human looking skulls. It is estimated that the caves are as old as 4000 BC. Research
Bruh.
became scant after a group of researchers went to the cave, and upon getting to the end of one of the systems, one of the chief researchers said that she approached a giant
Wait,
drop-off.
hold up. Wait. What's 4,000 years old? Because no religion existed for 4,000 years. I'm just saying.
It is estimated that the caves are as old as 4000 BC. Research became scant after a group of researchers went to the cave, and upon getting to the end of one of the systems, one of the chief researchers said that she approached a giant drop-off, and then in shining her flashlight to the other side, she saw a sort of embankment that 25 people came out of, each of which were
What?
20 feet tall and wearing robes. When
Okay,
they saw her with the
alright,
flashlight, they
get
all
outta
looked
here.
towards her and began reaching out their arms.
Get
Her and the rest of
outta
the research team got out of there, and a couple weeks later, 30 school students went to the area on a sort of field trip, to which they got lost, and people that were looking for them heard screaming and shouting,
Lord,
and none of
what?
them were ever found.
What? 30 people went missing? Okay, that's terrifying. I take it back. The Malta catacombs officially went from, oh, come on, dude, to actually terrifying. Bruh, what?
The crew then got out of there, boarded it up, and to this day, it is a no-go zone. So
Wait, actually? This place is still, like, there, and people are scared to research it? Bro, what? That's scary, dog.
what's in the caves, why were those bodies never found, and what were those creatures walking around in there? Amphibians in Iraq was near impossible to find information on. I'm pretty sure this is in reference to the
Amphibians in Iraq? What's that, the plague of frogs in Egypt? What the?
Lizardmen of Iraq. Around a place in Iraq called
The
Dubai,
Lizardmen?
there was a sort of coliseum that was found and discovered to be an
No.
old burial chamber. Upon going inside, there were several bodies and statues of old people from Iraq, but what was very weird is several thousand of these little statues were of lizardmen, with these very elongated skulls and in different positions. What's even more interesting is why some may disclaim this and say, oh, it was an old world god. These were perfectly mixed in with the normal people statues, and they were all maintaining common poses, kind of saying that it was just a natural occurrence. To this day, no one knows the source of where these lizardmen came from, or what the knowledge about them was, and they just exist as if old world history was okay with them. Phantom kangaroos are a phenomenon that has
Bro,
been
that
found
seems like you said some shit out of Dark Souls, man. Kind of creepo.
in the United States, in which several people have reported seeing kangaroos in the woods or around their house. What's odd is there are several hundred occurrences of this, with
What?
it going from everywhere to someone saw them in the middle of the woods to someone saw one on their front porch, and this is as recently as 2018. It's not like some old previous century concept. Some of the descriptions have them as being much larger than normal kangaroos and even armored. These descriptions match that of
Armored?
Todon, which is an old sort of kangaroo ancestor that has remains been found in the United States in years previous, given the idea that maybe this is just an extinct animal that never actually went extinct and is existing in the forest
Yo, that would be so cool. Oh my god, that would be so dope.
of the United States. The Potomsky crater is in reference to a giant crater-like structure found in Siberia. What's interesting is this, while it may look like a crater on first viewing, is anything but. It is a giant rock structure that just perfectly matches the shape of it, and what's even weirder is that the area immediately around the crater is very much overgrown as compared to the woods around it. Now, while this may lead you to think radiation, there are no highly active radiation in the area. The nearby tribe of the Yukut has said that it is a place that people do not travel or else they get sick and die, and have even named the area Fire Eagle's Nest. One of the only research groups to ever go and try to take a look at it, because remember it's in the middle of Siberia, in
The
2005 had their
belly
leader
button
die
of
of a heart
Siberia.
attack upon approaching it, and there hasn't been much research since. So
Fear
make your own
me,
conclusions
I am an
about it.
Audi.
Thomas Pynchon was an author that is still alive and is most known for his books he wrote in the 1960s. It would take way too long to explain all of the things that he talked about in his book, but essentially he was a fiction author that used like advanced science as a basis for his stories. More specifically, a concept he is famous for dealing with is that of Maxwell's demon, which is the idea that if you had a very small figure that could individually interact with particles and heat on a microscopic level, it could tip the balance of entropy and make physics work backwards.
What?
He used this as a basis for a lot of his books and is known as either having a higher understanding than the average person, or creating concepts that are so abstract they've led to several concepts in modern theoretical physics. Animism
Damn.
is just the broad idea of applying a soul or spirit to anthropomorphic objects. It's actually where the idea of anthropomorphism comes from. So essentially you can
I thought anthropomorphism came from like Sonic porn. Yeah, I'm pretty sure anthropomorphism came from anthropomorphism definitely came from Sonic porn, not from animism. Okay, dude, please consult a real specialist before making videos like this, dog.
imprint the idea of a spirit or character onto a physical item enough to the point that it eventually becomes real. The Dighton Rock is a rock that is found off the coast of the Taunton River in New Jersey. What's interesting about this rock is that it looks
Dude, come on, dog. There's a conspiracy theory on tier 4 of the Iceberg that started in New Jersey. Please. Please, come on, man. Come on, please. Yeah, right.
Perfectly normal from a distance, but as you get close to it, you realize there are these very deep inscriptions all over it that do not make sense in any recorded language, and the depictions also don't match up with anything. Theories about this rock have ranged from King Solomon in showing that the depictions of it are that of the Old Testament, or Norse mythology, and that it is an entire story of Odin laid out on the rock. But both of those ask the question, then why would this rock show up in New Jersey unless Solomon or the Norse or something like that arrived at America and brought the stone with them from all that time before? Either way, it's still interesting that it got there with absolutely no recorded history of it being there. Bunkers in Mars is in reference to the fact that the Mars rover caught a few short glimpses in the middle of rock faces on Mars of what seemed to be these windows or cut out metal places. This is combined with the theory that water originally existed on Mars and says that the planet had a mass extinction event in which everyone had to go underground, and that from looking at the Mars rover's images of the planet of Mars that we can see sort of these last remnants or possibly still living remnants of the Mars population. Triassic mystery is a little too vague for my liking because there are several Triassic mysteries when it comes to missing links and things such as. However, the one that I found the most reference is that of Proterocorodon, which is essentially a giant omnivore that was discovered, and its teeth don't make sense for its skull, and it's supposed to be a sort of missing link. So yeah, that's it. Montanism comes from a man named Montanus and was an idea he developed in the 2nd century AD, which essentially says that you can continue to expound on the Bible and get insight through revelations. This was specifically done with him, in which he saw that there would be a soon coming end of times and started sort of the first cult in this ideology, or at least first known religious cult in this ideology, that God would come back soon, specifically at his
dog. It's not so hard. I started a cult. Hey cult, how you guys doing? You doing okay there, cult? Just making sure the Billies are doing alright. You know what I'm saying? Hell yeah. There we go. Good to see the cult going strong. All right. Sorry, Montanism. You think you're so cool, Montanism? Bruh, I have a cult without even trying to have a cult.
church. Ideas of Montanism today are just that Christianity can be expounded upon if people receive direct information from God. The Sabic Tomatovic tape, which I believe still translates in Serbian to sandwich tomato, is in reference to a Serbian porn star who claimed that she was roped by a giant spider. No, I'm not kidding on that. It goes more so to say that she was roped by the Jabba Fofi, which is a cryptid from South America, which is essentially a giant 4-foot wide spider. And while there is evidence to back up that existence, there is no evidence to back up this tape. However, she supposedly became popular in something called Jinky Jinky, which is a Japanese ring of insect.
Oh, did you see the YouTube auto text? Didn't want to say that first word.
Related films.
Dude, that insect porn is the weirdest thing on the planet. I'm just saying, I don't mean to kink shame anybody, but if you're into insect porn, see a doctor, get help.
Became a star with costumes and machines in that realm, and I don't want to live on this planet anymore. Marco Rodin was originally a physicist who came up with the concept of the forever electron, and that there's a path that an electron could follow in which it could convert energy without ever losing it, so essentially a forever supplying power source. Since then, he has got very much so into esotericism and went on this long discovery to try to figure out the name of God and the source of God, and through this series of calculations he did, he figured out that the holy number was 9 and that God's name was Abha, A-B-H-A. So, yeah. Operation Paperclip was something that happened after World War II and is now pretty well known, in which 1,600 Nazi scientists were granted U.S. citizenship for their assistance in the American rocket program, and more specifically the space race. The theory goes on to say that the only reason we beat Russia in space is through the help of German scientists. Planck feedback.
German science, the best in the world! It's a JoJo reference!
Is the idea that as something is heated, it becomes more radioactive. So negative Planck feedback would be the idea that deriving temperature or energy from a system creates more radiation, or in other words, adding heat to it would cancel out the radiation. And it's another one of those sort of like nonsensical concepts in theoretical chemistry that you could remove radiation from a system or destroy it through amount of energy given in or taken out, only backwards. Manichaeism is this 3rd century concept of religion. It essentially applied ideas of Christianity, Gnosticism, and pagan gods all into one. It originated in Persia and is essentially the idea that Christianity can present itself through pagan gods or modern rituals and things such as, and that all of these ideas of supposedly non-religious elements can come to creator and make the godhead of sorts. So it's essentially combining Christianity with pagan deities. Valis is a novel written by Philip K. Dick, who was a famous science fiction author in the 1980s.
Philip K.
Valis
Dick
stands for Vast Acting Living Intelligence System. Essentially,
dude, is he T-posing? Is he T-posing in the 1980s? Let's freaking go! 1980 T-pose right here. Let's go, Philip K. Dick. You know what's up. Did he call his book Phallus? Sheesh, this man knows what's up.
Actually, it is the idea that God is a simulation, or rather we are living through a simulation created by God. However, a lot of his theories apply back to Gnosticism, which again was mentioned in the last theory and several of the theories beforehand. And again, it all relates to that idea of there being a God and lesser gods. So what you could derive from this is that the Valis system itself he wrote about is one of these lesser gods. ICBM decoys has 2 different definitions. The first being that countries that do not have ICBMs will simply have fake ones in order to deter other world powers from attacking. So essentially the whole gun, the paper bag thing. Also, for those who don't know, ICBM stands for Intercontinental Ballistic Missile. The other idea of it is that whenever an ICBM is launched, there will be several fakes launched with the real one,
No,
just so that
that's so
whatever
cool.
system is trying to shoot it down has a lesser chance of actually stopping the
Very
missile.
clever.
Portoa, from everything I can find, is another reference to 4chan. For those that don't know, whenever someone posts on 4chan, their flag of origin and country is shown whenever they do so. For a small window a few years ago, there were a few flags that popped up that had the country listed as Portoa and had a unique flag that had never been seen before.
What?
Immediately afterwards, all those posts disappeared, and 4chan
That's
simply
so
acted like it was a
weird.
glitch that never happened, leading people to believe that Portoa or Portoya is a country that exists in a parallel universe. And that is
Okay,
it for Tier
it's
4.
cringe.
Again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Tier 5 will
Bruh,
be...
dude, I love how like the weirdest theories are all just 4chan. Alright, that was tier 4 of 10. God damn. Yo, this is crazy. I love conspiracy theories. They're so fun. They're so fun. Dude, there are some really wacky ones that you hear. Like, or whatever. Like, there are found, like, broken chariots at the bottom of the Red Sea. The sea that, like, in the Old Testament, like, it split and then it, you know, killed the Egyptians. Bruh, like, they found chariots there. Like, there's some really wacky stuff out there. Oh my god, this is so cool. Oh my god. Like, subscribe, and follow me on Twitch. Stay weird, fam.